Hi guys, it's Chantel with Wildberry Quilting, and today we're going to finish up the Bobbin and Blooms quilt. So let's hop right into it. So now we have our D and L pieces, and we are going to be joining them together like this. And this is going to make our little stitch looking border that goes on the top, middle, and bottom. Now, since we are making 3 lines of these and they're going to start and finish with the printed fabric, I have pulled 3 of them out and set them on the side. That way I don't end up having to pick any stitches. And now one of you guys actually commented on one of my videos, on my last video like that of this quilt along, and thanked me for explaining what the leader and ender fabric was actually there for. And I am so sorry I can't remember what your name was off the top of my head. I kind of think I remember who you are, but I'd have to look and see because, I read so many comments that I don't always remember who said which thing until I go back and check. But I do remember you guys. And I'm glad that I was able to help answer that question. I wasn't even... It's easy to not think about what it is why you end up deciding to do something, and remembering to explain to other people what the reasoning is behind it. So I totally understand why other people may not have mentioned that in videos. And, it could be that they even had mentioned it, but that maybe they've done 100 videos and they just don't mention it in every one of their videos, which is understandable too. But in case anybody is watching this and they did not watch the previous video in this series, or I guess the first video in this series is when I mentioned it. This is going to be the third, but for this particular quilt. But if you didn't catch that, the reason why I use leaders and enders is because it allows you to prevent any nesting to build up on the back of your fabric. It also helps prevent your fabric from getting sucked down into the machine when you are first starting. And it's particularly useful when you are going on a corner, and because of course we all know points have a very real tendency of getting pulled down into the machines, and nobody likes that. That is not a fun thing to deal with. I had my old machine that I had before this one, it would actually really suck the fabric down into the faceplate. And I was still pretty new when I first got that machine, so I didn't really always catch it immediately. And there were a couple of times when it just sat there and hammered it down into the faceplate. And then I had this wad of fabric that had been pulled through, and I had to cut it out, and it was quite a mess. So I had to take the entire faceplate off in order to try to get the fabric out of it. And Oh boy, let me tell you, that was not fun. I learned, I definitely learned from that and got better about recognizing when that was happening. But I will say that particular machine did it a lot, and it was not always completely evident that it was happening, especially for a beginner to try to recognize that that's what was happening. So it was still a good machine. It just, I think they all have their own issues and their own personalities. So, you know, one machine might do really, really well with something, but then kind of struggle with something else. I know that when I got my very first machine, it was a machine that my husband's grandmother gave to me. And she told me, she gave me the choice between two older machines that she had. And she's like, this one does really nice straight stitching, and this one does really nice buttonholes. So, and she was a very experienced seamstress. Still is. She doesn't sew anymore though. So that's why I say it like past tense. Okay, so set 3 of these double pieces off to the side, and we will stitch the rest of them together. So I've got these all sewn up and pressed. Now I have separated them out into 2 piles, and I'm just going to make sure that I don't have any that are the same color that will be side by side, or especially not the same print. So that is what I'm working on. Now we're going to sew them together just like this. So that first little machine she gave me though was a really good one, and it's funny because it was actually made the year that my husband was born, or maybe it was sold the year my husband was born. I don't remember exactly. So, but those machines that are a little bit older, they're the ones that really last. I will say I've been very happy with the machine that I currently have, though. It has held up well. Of course, it's not 30 or 40 years old, but but it has at least survived. Whoops, those two are the same, so I'm going to switch that around. It has at least survived the last 4 years pretty well. That's how long I've had it now. And I don't have any complaints with it. The only issue that I had was when I tried to use it for free motion quilting at the very beginning. I was having issues, but it turned out to be the free motion quilting foot that was the problem. So I had some people online. I had looked into a FAF group and asked them about it, and they recommended changing that foot. And when I used a different foot, it solved all of the problems, and I didn't have to worry anymore. And you'd be surprised the difference that made. Oh, I should have switched that the other way because now I keep doing it. Okay. Apparently I didn't do a good enough job laying this out beforehand because I keep having to swap stuff, but that's okay. But yes, they were really good about it, and they told me exactly what I needed to do. And it was funny because the sewing shop that I went into to buy the foot, it was a FAF dealership. but they didn't think that that was what was going to fix it. They thought that it was a thread issue, but I had already tried all the different types of thread I could get my hands on, and it wasn't, just nothing would solve it. And I'd messed with all of the tensioning and everything, and yeah, just that one thing of changing that foot, and that foot, the one that came with it, just for that purpose, just was not good, and it messed up my tension so badly. All right, now I have one of my things of 4, and I have one of my doubles, and I'm going to stitch these onto the end. And there should be a total of 3 pairs of, 3 pairs of those. And don't grab the one from the other one. There is my second one. And yes, I did stitch these together first before I realized that I needed to set 3 of the doubles on the side. But at least I made that mistake, and I can let you guys know to set those 3 aside so you don't make that mistake. And there we go. Now I have my rows of 4, the rest of my rows of 4, and I've divided those into 2 groups, made sure that I like the way that they look together, and I'm going to stitch these together. And I do think you should probably plan this out a little bit, just so that you don't end up with ones right next to each other that look alike. So now, when we're doing these kinds of strips, I actually prefer to cut my fabric in long strips and then trim it down into these smaller segments, because it's a lot less sewing and going back and ironing and everything like that. You can just go through and iron it far less. We'll put it that way. You iron it far less times. Okay, so now we have our smaller strips that are just pairs, and we're going to be combining them with some of our longer strips. And this is very much just a back and forth process of going through and attaching longer strips with shorter strips now. And then once we get finished with this, we will be capping them off with the 3 pieces that we left on the end, that we left off at the beginning. But we are very close now. I think I've got one more group of these to put together before we do that. Alright, now this is the last group of 3 before we can put our little end pieces on. And then we'll have these strips all done and ready to move on to the next step. This is just the cutest little quilt, I swear. I think it's about time to retire that leader fabric. Alright. Last little end pieces attached here. And then we're going to grab our O pieces and sew them along the side of each of these which should go nice and quick. Okay, so we've got our long strips and we've got our O pieces, and we are just going to sew it to the side like this. Alright, I should have known better, but I made a bit of a rookie mistake, and I sewed all of these small stitch looking pieces together with a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance, like I sew everything together, and when I'm quilting anyways. And unfortunately, of course, that made that strip way too long because it's a whole lot of small, short, end-to-end stitches for a strip. So learn from my mistake. When you go through and stitch all of those together, do not do them with a scant 1/4 inch or your fabric will be too long at the end. Your strip will be too long at the end. And it's going to be much longer than your O pieces. Or alternatively, you could still use a scant 1/4 inch and just not trim your O pieces. That's actually what I usually do, is I don't trim my sashing pieces, and then I just trim everything to the size it needs to be at the end. But I didn't do that this time, so I ended up having to pay the penalty, and that meant getting out my seam ripper. So that's okay. It is what it is. And I did not go through and rip all of these, of course. That would have been insanity. Instead, I just ripped the O piece from these strips, and then I went through, and I'd only done like half of one of them, so it really wasn't that bad. And then I went through and I trimmed a little bit off of both sides. So the little cap piece at the ends will be a little bit shorter than what the other ones are, but I'm not too worried about that. I think that actually makes it look more like stitching that just, ran off and continued on after the edge. So I'm all right with that. And especially since it's on all of the sides, I think it'll make it look more intentional. If it were just one side, then that would probably look kind of funky and like it was a mistake. But as it is, I'm not worried about it. I think it'll be good. No quilt should be perfect anyways, right? I mean, I always think of those, I still don't know who, I should look that up, whether it was like Norwegian sailors or who it was, but their wives and their sisters and their mothers, when they made them their clothes to go out and fish with, of course it was a very treacherous job, it still is. They actually believed that it was bad luck for it to be perfect. So they would intentionally sew mistakes into the garments that they made for them, because you don't want to have bad luck at sea. Nobody wants bad luck at sea. That's for sure. I've been enjoying watching some of those deep sea fishermen shorts on YouTube. or the ones where they're oil rig ones, and just whatever, they're out there in the middle of the deep ocean and the crazy weather and everything like that. All right, sorry about that, guys. I had to stop in the middle of recording that because we had a minor emergency outside. Not really, but my daughter thought it might be. She thought that she had found a gun in the yard, and when I went out there to go check on it, I had to, of course, stop immediately and go out there and go check on it. But it was just a toy gun. It was plastic and, not real. It did look fairly authentic, though. It was not one of those ones where they try to make it look like a toy. It looked fairly authentic, and I can understand why she was concerned. And of course, I'd rather her be safe rather than sorry, because we don't need any of the kids getting a hold of that. Okay, when I went to go press these, I stopped for a moment to try some new chips that we got from Costco. They're supposed to be like Thai street food chips, and my dad had picked them up because he was curious about them, and it's fun to try new things sometimes. So while everybody was outside, I opened the corner of the bag and snuck one. Ooh! I don't know what that flavor is, but it does not taste like Thai food to me. I don't know. I guess I've never had Thai street food though, so maybe it tastes like the street food. To me, it tastes like sweet pickle relish. Sweet pickle relish potato chips. I am not a fan. I guess I could see how some people would like it, but I don't think I'll be eating any more of those. Definitely more of an acquired taste, I think. And I do like Thai food. But of course, not all Thai food's going to taste the same either. So maybe it was just supposed to be replicating some dish that I would not like. I don't know. But did not taste like any of the Thai food that I've ever eaten. I probably would have called it like American hot dog flavor. Because of the dill pickle relish. That's really the flavor that stood out to me. It's interesting too, because when I went to eat it, as soon as you put it in your mouth, you get a huge, aroma of flavor, that kind of a flavor before you taste the flavor. And that was good. And I was thinking, oh, well, these should be good. And then as soon as I started chewing it, it was like, oh, what is this? It's like, it is definitely a combination of different flavors, but at least the dominant one to me is that sweet pickle relish flavor. Oh my gosh. I'll be curious to see if the kids like them. I'm guessing probably the majority of them won't, but we'll probably have like one or two that do. I'm sure they'll still get eaten. Most things do. Oh, my dad likes weird things. He probably will eat them. I think I would have preferred, like, if we're going to go with a condiment flavor for chips. Well, I know that those salt and pepper chips, oh, those are so good. Love those. You don't see them very often, though. I've had ketchup flavored chips. And honestly, I can't even remember how they tasted, if I liked them or not. The salt and pepper chips stood out to me. I liked those, but yeah, I can't remember how I felt about the ketchup ones. I've had Worcestershire sauce, like Worcestershire flavored chips, and those were good. What else? I would like to see, like, oh, I love salt and vinegar chips. But I would like to see maybe sauerkraut flavored chips. That would be interesting and different. I love sauerkraut, and I would imagine it'd be kind of similar to salt and pepper, or not salt and pepper, but salt and vinegar as far as that tartness goes, but with a little bit different flavor to it. Okay, so now we are sewing our end pieces along the right side of our flowers. And I have removed 2 of the flowers from the pile, and those are going to be the ones that are on the rightmost side. That way I don't add too many strips because I don't need them on that side. All right. In goes our scrap piece, our sacrificial piece of fabric, and on we go. And just make sure that it lines up all the way to the bottom so that our fabric doesn't grow on us. And there we go. That's the first one. Now, I highly, highly recommend that you lay all of these out before stitching this together, or else you're going to end up with some of your flowers being beside each other in an undesirable layout. And you'll have prints that are right next to each other and stuff that are the same. And once you do lay it all out and get it how you want it to be, take a picture with your phone. Don't lay it out and then think that you're going to remember the layout, because you won't. Take a picture, and then it'll be easy to go back and reference it and see what you got to do. You will be so glad that you did. And there we go. And again, I'm just matching it up at the bottom before I continue sewing. That way I can make sure neither of the top or the bottom grows. Typically it will be your top that grows. But actually what's really happening is your bottom is shrinking because your feed dogs ease some of the fabric into place. So if you know that one of the pieces that you're attaching is going to be longer than the other, then you put that piece on the bottom and the feed dogs will actually help you out. Oops, I have a little bit of a gray line that was on my fabric. It's like a bluish gray line. It's on both sides, so sorry. But I guess I'm just going to have to deal with it because it is visible from both sides. So no fabric's perfect. And oh my gosh, the dust off of this. You guys are probably going to see some cuts here because I am just coughing and coughing. There's a whole bunch of dust, like fabric dust that's getting into my lungs and my throat, and I'm just like hacking over here. So forgive the cuts. It is to spare your ears because I don't want to be coughing to where it hurts your ears, especially if you've got headphones on or something. There we go. There's another piece of that blue. It must have been a line going, right across those two. I think it's just as noticeable on both sides. I don't think I'm going to be able to get around that. So just is what it is. I can't do anything to fix it. So, and I am just flipping my fabric over each time because I want to get that straight piece of fabric with no joins on the bottom. It just makes it easier. As I was telling you before on that other piece, it just makes it easier to get everything to not flip on you. You can kind of guide it as you go rather than being at the mercy of however it falls into the feed dogs. And there's that one. I think we're on the last one. Yep. How exciting. This quilt is coming together pretty quick. Although it doesn't really seem like it's quick because I've had some delays in working on it, but as far as the pieces, putting the parts together, they go together pretty quickly. So I can tell you I've done very little, I've edited out very little for these videos. So the first one I think was like an hour, and that was the long one. And then the second one was like 20 minutes. And this one, I have no idea. I don't know until I sit down to edit it how long it's going to be, but I don't think it'll be that long. And that's pretty much the entire duration of quilting for this quilt, because I just have not edited out that much. All right, now we have our flowers with the sides, the strips sewn on the sides of them, and we are going to be attaching the up-facing ones to the down-facing ones. And again, make sure that you have planned this part out. You don't want to get to the end and find out that you've got a whole bunch of one fabric type in one spot. took me a little bit to figure out exactly which way I was going to lay these out, because I did not give a whole lot of thought as to which tops and bottoms I was putting together. And some of them, some of the combinations made it difficult to not have light fabrics touching. So, but I think I did figure out a way to make it to where everything is different beside each other. So I'm happy about that. If I didn't, then I overlooked it. And if I overlooked it while putting it together, then that means it probably will be overlooked when it's being used. I mean, honestly, probably nobody's going to care other than me. And while I'm sitting there cuddling up underneath it, I'm not going to be paying attention to that. I'm probably going to be cross-stitching or doing something else. Watching videos on YouTube. Maybe cross-stitching and watching videos on YouTube. I like to do that. Oops. Alright. Down to the last two, it looks like. Oh my gosh, I need to clean my iron. Look at that. I left some kind of gunk on there. Should wash off though. It's probably just dust that's accumulated with my, and gotten, stuck to the fabric because of the, oh, what's it called? Best press that I use. Dust and best press. Dusty best press. Oh. My best press doesn't get dusty. I use that stuff all the time. I still need to finish up that pressing tutorial. I should have stayed with it while I was doing the flag quilt so that all of it would stay, the same. But I ended up just wanting to record the flag quilt and let it get away from me as far as the recording of that part, that tutorial. So I may just reshoot the whole thing just so that everything's cohesive and it's not like, okay, do this and then all of the fabric changes and now do this. I think that would probably be a little bit confusing to everybody if I did that. So I'm thinking I probably just need to start over on that one. I was recording one the other day for, comparing the different types of cross stitch. And I was so tired when I was filming that I was just sitting there, blah, 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 stuttering and stopping and, it was so bad. So I think I need to redo that one as well. All right, so now we're just sewing together our centerpieces, or centerpiece really, because, no, I guess you'd say centerpieces because we haven't sewn the top and bottom portion together yet. So right now it's still in pieces, but we're getting really close. Yeah, I was just so tired that day though, and I needed a nap. I should have been napping instead of recording, but that's okay. Honestly, I could use a nap now too. I'm pretty tired. There we go. There's that one. And just lining this all up for this one. Ah, don't shift on me. There we go. But as I was saying before, I have not edited much out of all of this other than, you know, stops for pressing and things like that. So if you figure that the first video was an hour and the second one was like 20 minutes, we can give it a half an hour just to be conservative, but it was like 20 minutes. And then we say, let's estimate high and say that this video takes an hour. I don't know if it will or not. That would mean that the whole quilt came together in 2.5 hours. You know, minus, of course, all of the actual quilting of it. But, you know, the piecing of it. That's pretty good for a quilt. All right, so we've got these all sewn into strips. Now we are going to just be sewing these to the tops and bottoms of our flowers with bobbins. And I'm just going to move a couple of them off to the side and we'll just kind of pick them randomly which one we sew on there. I don't think it really matters. Now before I guess I should separate that out of the way as well. Before I stitch this on here, I am going to go through and clip it going all along. I'm going to start at one end and then I'm going to clip the other end. And this way it just makes it so that, oops, where's my clip? There it is. This way we can just make sure that all of that fabric is evenly dispersed, which it looks like it will be without a problem. I'm going to go into the middle now and clip the center. But you always want to start at the two sides, the two ends, and then go back and do the center, and then you can kind of just meet in the center for the remaining parts. And I think one more clip will do it for us, and then we can get started putting this together. And I put all my clips upside down because now I'm going to turn it over and sew it this way, since I have long strips here, and then I have a lot of pieced parts on this side. But oh well. Normally I would put the clips facing the opposite, you know, facing up instead of down, but I wasn't thinking about it too much. You're only going to be there for a second anyway, so I don't think it'll matter. Oops. Anyway, change we go. We've got the 1/4 inch presser foot on now. The perfect 1/4 inch presser foot is what it's called. But you don't really have to have it. It's just nice to be able to use it because it requires less thinking. Or less maneuvering, I guess. Basically, that foot just has like a little ledge on the side of it there. And as you sew, it keeps the fabric from drifting too far off in this direction. I like it. It works pretty well. Like I said, you can use a regular presser foot though. You don't have to use that. You just have to know your measurements on your regular foot and where to stitch at to get your 1/4 inch. Or scant 1/4 inch if that's what you're going for. Which I usually do so with a scant 1/4 inch. But not usually when I'm sewing together rows like this, because at this point I'm not going to have to go back and worry about trimming it down to meet something specific. So I'll just sew up the regular 1/4 inch at this point. Man, I filmed the first part of this video probably, I don't know, it feels like it's been a while now. And I just have not gotten a chance to record very much over the last couple weeks, which left me hanging on this where I did not have it done. And I've really been wanting to get it out here for you guys so that you could see the other half of this, but things have just been so busy, it seems, that there's been no time for recording. There we go. Now go to the other side. All right, that's all pinned or clipped or whatever you want to call it. Let's go ahead and stitch it on. But yeah, things have just been really busy and I haven't gotten a chance to record very much. So, oops, stuck on the side of that seam guide. So, I've been kind of just cruising off of what I already had videos recorded for, which is now drying up. I've got to go ahead and record a lot more. Oops, that's probably in your way. So I have several videos that I know I need to record and make, and I don't know, I'm just unsure of what to put out there first. I kind of feel like I need to do the summer quilting inspiration video because at this point I feel like it's already just about summertime here in the northern hemisphere, so I'd love to have that video out already because I like to usually try and get those out a little bit ahead of time or at the very beginning of the season so that you guys have a chance to plan out your summer sewing in case, or your seasonal sewing, I mean. But in this case, it'd be summer. I don't know. I've got all of the stuff picked out already for what's going to be in the video. It's just that those videos take a lot of recording time and a lot of effort to edit and put together. So, you know, it's not really that I've been slacking. It's more so just that I haven't had the time. But a certain part of me wants to slack too. And if I slack off and I don't have the time, then I'm really not going to ever get to it. So I need to just take the time to do that. I think you guys enjoy those videos. It seems like you do. So I'd like to get those out there for you so that you guys can have it. All right. I'm going to pin this up and then see you back in a second. All right, I'm back and ready to stitch this one together too. But that's just one of the videos that I have that I need to finish record, or that I need to start recording, but you know, needs to be done. I know another one is I've promised to do the video for, oh, what is it? The pressing, how I get my blocks to lay so flat. And I recorded that like halfway with the flag quilt, and you know, I got in a hurry and stopped recording. So I'm kind of thinking I want to record that over again just so that everything is cohesive and with the same fabrics. And then I also have, you guys asked me to do a video for, oh, what is it? Oh, how I pin together, how I do my pin basting for my quilts, which you guys asked at the exact perfect time because I was just about to pin baste quilt. All I had to do was roll up my batting and then I could start with the basting. However, when I opened the package of batting, there was something really nasty in the middle of the batting. I don't know what it was. It was manufactured into it. So it was just, maybe there was oil or grease or something on the equipment when they were making it and it dripped down onto it. But it was a large area, like, like this on right in the center of the batting. So I couldn't use that. I contacted Fat Quarter Shop and they were so awesome. They actually handled it without any problems. I'll be right back. I'm going to press all this. All right, this is all pressed. I'm just sewing these two larger pieces together. And then we have some white borders to do on the sides. But as I was saying, I contacted Fat Quarter Shop and they were great. They took care of, they, jumped right into taking care of it for me. They asked me what kind it was and, checked if I wanted to receive the same kind over again or if I wanted to change it for a different type. But I just told them, same one was fine. I'm not grossed out by it to where I think that there's a problem that's going to happen again. I've been getting batting from them for a few years and I've never had any problems before. I think this was just some fluke accident. But she asked me for a photo of it so that she could send it over to quality control too and make sure that they can try to figure out what caused it and stop it from happening to anyone else, which I appreciate. I'm happy that she did that. It was no bother taking a picture and sending it so that they could make sure that that was taken care of. So, but that does mean that I have to wait on that batting to get here before I can baste that quilt because it's got to have something in the middle. It would be a very floppy quilt if I didn't, and you'd be able to see the back, the fabric on the back through the front of the quilt, and nobody wants that. All of this is pressed, and I just have these long pea strips, and I'm just going to sew those along the side of the quilt. So I did have to piece these together. We had to cut 3 of them and got them pieced so that I can stitch them along the side. Can't forget that. I did not, however, cut it. So right now I have 2 long strips sewn together. And once I stitch this to the side, then I will cut off the excess and stitch that to the other pea strip. It's just how I prefer to do things so that I can make sure that there is enough length for everything and, nothing ends up slightly shorter or something. That's just the easiest way I find to do long strips of sashing. So once I get the quilt all sandwiched and once the batting comes in and I get it basted and everything, then I can do another free motion quilting video, which I know you guys have also been looking forward to that. I've had a few requests to do more of those, so that is 3 videos at least that I've got to work on that I know people are waiting on. No, 4 videos, because there's the summer quilting inspiration, there's the pressing video, there's the basting video, and the free motion quilting video. So that's 4, but they're all kind of time consuming videos to make, which is why I have not gotten to them yet, because I just haven't had that time. They are coming though, and I have not forgotten about you guys. And I know that sometimes it might seem like there's a cluster of the cross-stitching videos, and I don't want anybody to think like I've just switched over to cross-stitching and this isn't a quilting channel anymore. Like, it really is both. It, you know, I know that quilting is in the name of the channel, but I kind of view this as, you know, mainly a sewing channel with other crafts as well. And for me, cross stitching still falls into that sewing category. So that's kind of how I view that. And the reason why there's a cluster of videos like that from time to time is when I don't get a chance to record very much. Cross stitch videos are one of the easiest type of videos I can record. So that and the unboxing videos, those are the 2 easiest videos to record, I think. All right, press, well, actually, no, I'm not going to press that right now. I am going to stitch it along the other side. All right, here's the next strip along the other side. But yeah, it's just easier to film those cross stitch videos because with the quilting videos, it's usually many pieces and stopping and starting recording and stuff. Whereas with like the cross stitching videos, I tend to just sit down, I can record all at once and do whatever. And same thing with unboxing videos. It's just sitting down and doing it all at once. So there's not a lot of starting and stopping, and you'd be surprised how much time that consumes. Because there's also a lot of prep work in between time, like with going and pressing and cutting and, you know, everything along those lines. Of course, you know, pressing video, but with a pressing video, then there's a lot of sewing in between. So there's prep for that too. It's like, and it's not as simple as just keeping the camera up and running back and forth when I'm recording the pressing, because then I have to move the camera and set it up in a different place in order to, when I'm filming the pressing versus when I am filming the sewing part. So in a way, it kind of seems like it would be easier just to do a different project that I'm not recording as, you know, for the pressing video. But if I'm recording everything that I'm making, it's kind of hard to do that. Well, not everything that I'm making, but all of my quilting stuff that I'm working on anyways. And of course, the prep work for the cross-stitching stuff, that's just kind of done during downtime when I don't have anything else that I can be working on. I can cross-stitch, so. All right, here we go. I'm going to press this and then we can do our review. All right, guys, so this is the finished quilt top. I probably am going to add a border to this. So let me know what kind of border you would like to see on this. And we'll do a video for how to do that. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.